Charting Toward Intimacy covers mature topics. Listener discretion is advised. We're just way too busy. Have you heard yourself saying that lately? This is the episode for you. We are diving into busyness right now and how that can affect your intimate life with your spouse. So if you feel like life is just too crazy right now, it's way too busy, you don't even have time to say hello to your husband, let alone actually have sex, give this episode a listen. Welcome to Charting Toward Intimacy, the sex and intimacy podcast for Catholic women. My name is Ellen Holloway, and I am a Catholic speaker and coach who specializes in sex and marital intimacy. And I am on a mission to help you actually enjoy and desire good, holy sex with your spouse. And joining me for this conversation, I have my amazing semi-regular co-host, Kathleen Chavanis.
Right. Woo-hoo. Let's talk about being busy. I know a lot about being busy. I don't know if you know. We're quite busy over here.
Oh my gosh. And we're just like, we are coming off of, at the time of this recording, it's the beginning of September. Like we just came off of, I think, the busiest summer our family has just ever had. Just a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
A lot of things going on.
That can be frustrating.
And yeah, you know what? It's funny. It's like I was so excited about all of the things, and they were all great things, but it was frustrating to be so busy. And so that's what we're actually going to be talking about in today's episode is like when you are in a season of like busyness and or high stress. I think those can go together or they can actually be separate. But I think we need to approach them in very similar ways.
Yeah.
Or they can be approached in similar ways. And talking about those seasons and staying connected, not letting sex just completely fall off the table at that time, but then also making sure that we're like not just relying on sex to keep us connected in those super busy and or stressful seasons.
Yeah.
And this can come from a work situation. This can come from like my family had the busiest summer ever. Kathleen's family moved.
And starting new school and switching schools up for the third time in 3 or 4 years. Yeah, there's been a lot of change over here too. A lot. I think anytime your routine gets juggled, right? Like that just leads to a high stress situation, particularly for women who are just more inclined to sort of like stabilize the household, right? And like keep the order. But then also like you're dealing with kids who have emotions over moving and, you know, sort of like moving into this new space and trying to make sure your kids are okay, that they're stabilized, that they're not being ignored, that they're adjusting, you know, like that puts just a lot of extra stuff on, you know, mom and dad that sometimes, it gets really hard to remain connected as husband and wife during those times. So, but there's a lot of different ways that this comes about.
There's a lot of different ways that like life can be stressful and busy. I think another one that we kind of want to point out, and these are just a couple of examples, like your life might be stressful and busy in a different way, but one more is just like a season of very busy work for the primary you know, the one who brings home the bacon, which I think in a lot of cases is the husband, but like just a season of long work days or maybe very, very stressful work that can create this sense of having no time. So it's not like necessarily the family is busy, but there's like this lack of time and this umbrella of stress. So those are the kind of situations that we want to just shine some light into, share some ideas. Yeah, Kathleen, you had a really awesome idea, like when we were just chatting before about
which one?
Asynchronous.
No, asynchronous connection. I think that is a huge thing right? So when we find ourselves in these seasons, it can be so easy, I think, to just sort of go about your day. And then finally, everyone's home at night, the kids are all in bed, and it's the first time that you've gotten to stop and think like, oh, hey there.
Oh yeah, we're married.
We're married. Can we connect? Should we not? Are we too tired? Right? Like, but it's truly just the first time you've stopped in the middle of your day to remember, oh, here's my spouse who I love. Mm-hmm. And then it feels like a lot of, like, first of all, there's been no build up to any sort of intimacy. It's just been like one thing after the next, after the next, after the next. And listen, I am all too familiar with how this goes. This is like story of my life. So I think that in those moments, what we need to, it's going to be really hard to just come together and connect at the end of the day if we've essentially paid no attention to each other before now, right? And mm-hmm. This isn't to say like, oh, you have to see each other more. Like, no, like we're talking about these like busy seasons at work, or maybe your husband gets home from work at the same time, but now all of a sudden you're gone shuffling kids off, picking up from school and then shuffling them off to the extracurriculars, right? And then you guys haven't had a chance to really see each other, nevertheless sit and talk until 7, 8 p.m., right? Asynchronous connection is the answer to this, where maybe in these seasons, first of all, recognizing that it's temporary, right? If it is temporary,
so helpful.
If it is temporary, right, is a really important thing and a really good conversation to have. But also maybe it's during these times that you slip the lunchbox note into your husband's lunch or into his gym bag if he's going to the gym, right, beforehand. Whatever, or maybe into his pants pocket, right, the night before he goes to work. Stick it in his pants pocket, right? Put it on the dashboard of his car, you know? Just those, like some sort of little note that says, hey, love you, thinking of you, hoping you have a great day, right? Like, or hey, you're hot. Can't wait to be with you soon, right? Like whatever. Or even just like flirty texts throughout the day. That's something that I am notoriously awful at. You can ask my husband, he'll tell you that I'm terrible at it and that's like my own personal thing. But he's always asking like, can we just like have some like flirty text during the day so I know you're thinking of me? And I'm going to say that this is so much easier said than done because I am a person who gets very easily distracted. And so when I've got 400 things on my to-do list today, I don't even remember to stop and do these things, right? Like it's like, oh yeah, I would text you if I thought to text you during the day, but I'm just going from one thing to the next that I'm not even thinking about it, right? I need to kind of hold myself accountable for that. And one thing you could do is maybe set a reminder in your phone, right? For maybe noon.
I was going to say a phone alarm.
Phone alarm, right? Noon. Send Michael a flirty text, right? Like whatever it is, I don't know.
Well, maybe don't send Kathleen's husband
don't send
text.
Unless your husband's name is Michael, yeah. But no. So setting an alarm in your phone if you're someone who just gets so wrapped up in the chaos of the day that you don't think of these things, set a reminder in your phone. The other thing, because I'm also awful at setting reminders, I have ADHD, but I don't have ADHD. Like they told me I don't have it. Anyway, if you're awful at setting reminders in your phone like me, you know what I usually go to is I just ask the Holy Spirit to remind me. I will stop when I'm realizing these things and I will say, I'll just say a quick prayer like, Holy Spirit, be with me today. Prompt me to do the things that I am forgetting to do, or prompt me to do the things that I ought to. And I will say that a lot of the time that actually works. Like you ask and he gives, Absolutely. Just whatever it is. But that asynchronous connection, right? Like just stopping in the middle of the day and having a flirty conversation, maybe even like set up sex for that night, right? Just tonight would be really awesome if blah, 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 and just start the conversation so that you're not just seeing each other for the first time at 8 p.m. and being like, oh, how do we get into this now after the chaos of the day? Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a huge, huge thing, I think.
And what I encourage too, like setting up like synchronous communication throughout the day. Like we are so connected. We have so much ability to stay connected. I love this idea of like notes, sticky notes or text messages. Like those are great. But also like, if we're in this situation of your husband is super, super stressful, busy at work, he definitely has 5 minutes at some point during the day because legally he has to take a break. Like he legally has to take a break.
Yeah.
So he can find 5 minutes to have a phone conversation and just like check in. How's it going? How's your day?
Yeah.
Or like just immediately on the way home from work, right? He gets in the car. Maybe it's a 20-minute, 30-minute. Maybe you live in the Bay Area of California like me and it's an hour and a half. Whatever amount of commute it is. But like, you can set these things up together of like, hey, I need more connection throughout the day because like, and we need that. We need that connection, right? And so it can be a quick phone call on the way home. My in-laws do this so well. My father-in-law does this so well for my mother-in-law. And I think it's because she sometimes gets like so in a zone that she like freaks out if somebody just walks in the house, which is maybe where this started for them. But it's beautiful because no matter where he's coming home from, like even if he went to the gym and it's like the same 1 hour class that they're retired now, it's the same 1 hour class that he takes every single day. So it's always the same time that he's going to come home. But he always calls and just is like, hey, I'm on my way. See you in 15 minutes.
Oh,
right?
That's sweet.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's just it's so sweet.
Yeah,
oh my
it's
gosh,
really
it's adorable.
sweet. Yeah.
And it's just like a beautiful, tiny little piece of connection.
Yeah.
And then I think too, like we need to like box some tradition too of, remember, like, again, I'm really focusing on this, your husband is super busy at work thing. But like let's say you're stay-at-home mom and your husband's super busy at work and he gets home really late or whatever. How about you go to his work at lunchtime and go say hi?
Yeah. That's a good idea.
Take the kids. Give everybody a wave.
We've
right?
done that
Like,
before.
And just, it's so fun for your kids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like if they're like young and at home or if you homeschool or something like that, that's just like a totally fun change of pace or whatever. But like that, especially if we're talking about like stress, if there's a lot of stress in your guys' life, changing up the norm like that and like go in the middle of the day and go say hi to dad is so fun and can be really stress relieving.
Well,
for your husband.
That's what I was going to say is
too.
like, there's a couple things there. Like, number one, depending on the job and how busy it really is, like there is an element of that could be like stress inducing. Like, I don't have time right now, But so I would say to make sure you're going at a time where he either knows that you're stopping by quick or like, that he has a minute. This doesn't mean go in and like, hang around his office for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. It could be something as simple as like, hey, we have something for you. Just come down to the parking lot. We've done this before. My husband constantly forgets to pack himself lunch. We've like brought his lunch before, or we've like been in the area for something else and we'll just swing by and say hi, or we'll stop and like pick something up and just like surprise him with it, So I would say, especially if it's a time that's very, very busy for him at work, it could be a really great thing to go pick up something that he loves. Maybe it's ice cream. Maybe it's just a Diet Coke, right? Or something that just shows that you thought of him, right? Something that could be stress relieving to him or just like thoughtful enough that you just drop by with it sort of very quickly. Hey, just come down to the parking lot for a minute and pick this up, right? Like that could be a really good way of connection. And make sure you give a kiss before you leave. That's like, and make it a long one if you can.
Yes.
Make it a good long one.
Have some physical touch, right? Hug and a kiss.
Yeah, no, that's
have that physical connection because that physical connection is huge.
That's a really great idea
in this.
We'll be back with the episode in just a minute. Before we get to the rest of the episode, I have a question for you. Is sexual pleasure something that seems just out of grasp? Or maybe something you've never or rarely actually experienced? Sexual pleasure, and orgasm in particular, is something that a lot of Catholic women struggle with. Whether it's because of a misunderstanding of the point of sexual pleasure and God's design for it, or a lifetime of suppressing anything to do with sex because it was bad or dirty, maybe shame from past sexual experiences, or maybe just that no one ever stopped to walk you through an in-depth anatomical diagram and tell you about how female pleasure works. Whatever it is, orgasm is a confusing jumble of anatomy, mindset, partner dynamics, and a lot more. And it's not something that you want to Google, because you never know what you're going to come across on the internet, and sifting through secular crap is just not something you have time for. That is why I created the Orgasm course for Catholic women. This course walks you through everything from anatomy to mindset to theology to the partner aspect of sex and orgasm, and it is all deeply rooted in Catholic truth. There is nowhere else that you can get all the good stuff and none of the bad stuff. Check out the Orgasm course for Catholic women at vinesinfullbloom.com/orgasm or click the link in the show notes.
I want to recommend one other thing during these times, especially that may not be something expected, but I think every marriage has something that is not ideal that could be worked on. One really great way to prioritize time together is marriage counseling. And I will say that, we have gone in the past. We are in a season where we just started going. And what was really sort of emphasized in our last session was that this is like it seems like this isn't like date time, but you can use this as date time, right? Like anytime you're coming together, you're prioritizing it, right? So kids cannot be there. Like there are very few things that I think are like totally hands off. The children cannot be around, right? But marriage counseling is one of them. So it's this really great opportunity to just be one-on-one with a moderator, essentially, in your counselor.
Yeah, right.
But someone who can really help guide conversations. And I hate marriage counseling as sort of always being argumentative. I don't think it has to be that way. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be we're going to counseling, so we're going to sit there and argue forever. No, it can be, hey, here's what we're dealing with. I'm going to say my side. You say your side. And then, hey, counselor, can you just help us come together in just a very gentle way that really highlights your relationship, but for the better. And our counselor even recommended last time, hey, next time we meet, maybe you guys can have the kids set up for the evening and then you just go out afterwards. We'll meet. It's a Friday. We meet on Friday, early or late afternoon, early evening. She's let's meet. And then you guys just go to dinner or something, just make a night of it. And I was yeah, you know what? That is a really good idea. Why don't we do that? So if you're struggling to find time, I really suggest thinking if marriage counseling could be a benefit, because it does. It just helps you to prioritize 1 hour, and it doesn't even have to be every week. It could be every other week. It could be once a month. Whatever you want to do, whatever you feel like you need, but just to prioritize that time together and then lean into it. The kids are already taken care of for an hour. Try to get them taken care of for 3 hours, and then lean in, kind of transition it into a date night where you're really already primed for conversation. I think could be a really beneficial thing to do, especially in these really busy seasons.
Yeah. And I just want to remind anyone listening who's just kind of but I'm in this stressful, busy season. How in the world would I make time for that? We make time for the things that are a priority to us. Time, God can do the craziest things with time.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever been in one of those situations where you're oh my gosh, I have the longest to-do list in the entire world and I have a half hour. How in the world am I going to get this done? And then all of a sudden, everything is done
Yeah.
on your to-do list. And you're like, how did that even happen? It's only been a half hour.
Yeah.
Like, God can make time. Like, and so when we're in these stressful, busy seasons, I think we need to recognize that your marriage is a priority.
Yeah.
And it's important to make it a priority. And yes, making sure that the kids are fed and like where, making sure that they're fed and loved.
Yeah.
That needs to happen. Absolutely. But like the extracurricular activities, not going to get you to heaven.
Yeah. Yes.
Getting them to school on time. Sorry, we're going to balk tradition here. Getting them to school on time, not going to get you to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But your sacramental marriage, that's going to get you to in a way, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
In a certain sense, right? That sacramental marriage, that has been placed in your life in order to prepare you for heaven.
Yeah.
So that sacramental marriage is so much more important than any of the extra things that are going on in your life. It's so much more important than work, than school, than money, than anything else. And so it really is important to put priority on that sacramental marriage. And then I just kind of want to touch back in because it's like, okay, wait, this is a podcast about sex and intimacy. Why have we've just been talking about marriage? And this is like a common theme, I think, on the podcast that like, especially for women, it's so hard to just immediately enter into sex. Sex is good. It's important. It's wonderful. It's holy. But we need intimacy outside of the bedroom. We need connection outside of the bedroom before we're ready to have sex. And so that's why we're talking about this kind of stuff of just like these ways of connecting outside of the bedroom.
Yeah.
And now I want to talk a little bit more on like balking tradition some more, because we've been talking about, okay, if busyness is just a season and here's some things to do to like get through that season. I don't think the majority of these are going to get you through if this is just your life.
Yeah.
Like that's not enough, right? If we're looking at a season of 6 months, a year, even just a few years, right? So long as we know it's a season,
Right.
we can get through the season using these tactics of asynchronous communication and, doing little popping in to work and things like that. Now, marriage counseling, that's another category. That's going to get you through everything.
Yeah. True.
Do that no matter
Do
where
that
you're
every
at.
time. Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's a wonderful suggestion. But let's say that this stress, busyness is kind of just your life right now. There's not really an end goal to it. Maybe your work or your husband's work is just incredibly stressful. I hear this a lot, and this is why we're going to use this example, that it's like, oh my gosh, my husband like has this very, very stressful job, but he's the primary caregiver, not caregiver, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm the primary caregiver.
He's the primary breadwinner.
He's the primary like income earner. Yeah, breadwinner. And so like he can't quit his job. We can't get a new job or whatever. And I just want to stop you right there, because as soon as you say he can't do something, then he can't. Like, his job not going to get you or him or your family to heaven.
Yeah.
It's not. He can get a new job. He can. We can trust fall into the Lord. We can quit the super stressful job.
Yeah.
There are non-stressful jobs that can support a family. Yeah, might be really hard. You might not have any extra money for any of the extracurriculars. And now those need to be taken off of the options for your family. Maybe it might even require you to move to a less expensive housing situation. But money is not going to get us to heaven.
Yeah.
a job that supports the family is not going to get us to heaven. Like, God absolutely is going to provide. And if the work situation that your family is in, and Kathleen's got an awesome example. I think we should like end with your story.
Yeah, we could do that.
If you've got a work situation that isn't working for your family, then you need to change it.
Yeah.
If you know it's not just like a season, right? Like I think it's very different if it's like, oh my gosh, work's just going to be crazy for the next 6 months. And then after that, it's going to be okay.
Great.
But let's say after that 6 months, it's not okay and it like gets worse. Okay, now you need to seriously look at what is important for our family and our marriage, because that's the priority, not how much money is being made.
Now, I want to say that if you heard Ellen say that just now and you were just like, your eyes opened wide and you were like, oh my gosh, like, how does she know this is where we are? Like, is she calling me out? Like, what is happening? Like, this is like the sign that I needed. Let me recommend, pray to Saint Joseph. Do a novena or a consecration.
Yes.
Saint Joseph the worker does not play. And I can tell you that because we have done multiple Saint Joseph novenas over multiple particular situations. And our 5th child is named Josephine because of that. So he leads. He was the provider. He was the leader of the Holy Family. And if you feel like the way that your family is being led and provided for right now is serving as more of a hindrance to your family life than serving it, then ask St. Joseph for guidance. And he, oh my gosh, you'll be amazed at the ways that he leads you. I have multiple crazy stories, honestly, about work and change and all of this, but I will sort of try to summarize this story that Ellen's talking about. So when we were first married, it was, I don't know, maybe the first 3 years of marriage. We had our first 2 very close together. So within the first 2.5, 3 years, we had 2 kids. We were both working in Philadelphia for the same parish. My husband was in campus ministry, and then I was in development, again, for like the same organization. After about a year in my position where new people had sort of come in and taken over, I was bringing kids into work with me, like for part of the day, like part of the week. I'd bring kids in, like Maggie and Gabe. They'd just come in with me and I'd be like working while also like trying to watch my kids. And like, it was not an ideal situation, but Michael and I were both equal. We were making equal salaries. So we were both contributing to our already very modest salary, but in equal amounts. So I had said that I would love to stay home, like, especially like now that we have a couple kids, like as they're like getting older and stuff. And it was like, yeah, like that would be amazing, but like, it's just not financially possible. And I knew this, but my heart like ached over it. So after a year in my position under this new like management, we did 360-degree reviews, like in the throughout the organization, throughout the church. So I remember going into my review, like not nervous at all. Had baby Gabriel strapped to my chest. He was like fussy and crying, and I'm like standing and bouncing him as I'm like in this review. And my boss says to me, let me just ask how you feel like you're doing managing the job and then also like having the kids here. And it was like a total moment where I was like, I knew I should have BS'd something, but I just couldn't. And I was like, I couldn't be anything but honest. And I think it was the Holy Spirit just moving me to honesty. And I was like, you know what? I can't do this. Like, I think we all know that I'm either like doing a good job at my work and then neglecting my kids, or I'm doing a really good job as a mom and then neglecting the work. And it's not ideal. You guys could have somebody better in this position and my kids could have a better mom. So I think we just kind of know that the answer here is that you need to find someone else to do this. And jaws dropped. Everyone was sort of shocked. But I walked out of that meeting. They were like, oh, well, we all have a lot to think about. And I was like, yep, guess we do. So I walked out and immediately was like, holy, you know what? What did I just do? I just quit my job. I don't know what to do. And so I called my husband and I told him, he was like, what are you talking about? He was like, well, what did you say? Like, it's probably not that bad. And I told him what I said. And he was like, what's your job? But maybe they'll come back and be like, no, we can make this work. And I was like, yeah. So anyway, after I hung up with Michael, the chapel was right across from my office. And I went into the chapel and Gabriel had fallen asleep and I just had him next to me and I'm just crying in front of the Blessed Sacrament. I am just like, I don't know what we're going to do. Like, how, like, I don't know what I just did. Like, I just need to trust you right now. Like, I there's nothing I can do. It's already done. And I'm just going to trust you throughout this whole thing. My boss peeked in and saw me. Later said it was the most heartbreaking moment of his life as he saw me like crying at Blessed Sacrament with my like small baby. But he opened the door and he was like, Kathleen, I think you're right. And I was like, I know I'm right, Father. And he just gave me this like very like sad smile and like left and like walked. So anyway, so I got home and Michael and I were talking this out and he was just like, okay, I love my job. It's really good like for the church, but it's not cutting it anymore. Like, that's it. Like, my family comes first. And he's always, from day one of our marriage, he has always been so good about this. My family comes first. My family is my path to heaven. Like, that's it. Like, nothing takes priority over that. And so, I don't know. I'm going to go drive a UPS truck or something. I don't know what I'm going to do. But UPS drivers make, like, you know, however much to start. Like, that's great. That'll do for now. And then I'll work my way up. And that's...
This is actually a solid job.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he was just like, I can drive CDL. Like, I can, like, whatever. I'll just be a UPS driver. So, and he was, like, ready to do this. He was, like, opening up applications and, like, ready to go. And the next day he went into work and he had a meeting with the same boss. And he said, listen, like, we know kind of like what, like how your meeting went with Kathleen. He's like, you guys know what we make. You know, we can't live off of one salary. So I think you know that if she's going, I have to go. And they said, yeah, we did sort of assume that. But there was another position in the parish that they weren't quite happy with how that person was doing. And so they were letting him go. And they offered that position to Michael, which came with enough money that we were only $10,000 a year shy of what we were making together, which allowed me to just get a part-time job and we were breaking even back where we were, but also opened up this entire new career path for Michael, which he never would have gotten into in any other way, but which he loves and which has actually been a wonderful job for him to provide for us. It has been like, it's just been life-changing in so many ways. And it's just an example of how sometimes you need to make these trust falls. Like, you don't necessarily know where, like, how God is going to do anything in your life. I mean, I have like so many of these stories because God's like, y'all need help over here. I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
But truly, like, he has, and all it takes is just one little, you know, nudge from the Holy Spirit. And if you can lean into that and just totally trust. I mean, listen, I just quit my job without saying anything to my husband, just without even knowing it myself. I just quit my job. And then all of a sudden, this whole new life opened up for us. And it's just the way that God works sometimes. That's the point. If you are in a season, if it's not a season, if it is life that is chaotic and busy and is affecting your intimacy as husband and wife, your ability to be a good father or a good mother, to be not even good, but present father or mother, go to the Lord, go to St. Joseph, go to the Lord through St. Joseph, ask for the plan, like ask for those inklings, for those nudges, and just follow, because he's got it totally figured out. And all you have to do is listen sometimes. So
yeah,
there we go.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that story, Kathleen, because I just think that was really an uplifting way to end.
No, it's a good one.
And just ask around too, because I bet your friends and family have stories like that too. Because I've got some myself. We could just do a whole series of podcast episodes. Oh my
gosh, that'd be so fun.
How the Lord has provided in our life, except that doesn't have anything to do with sex. So, but yes, just don't, question question everything. Like, do I actually have to be doing this, right? Our society says, here's the way that you have to live, and here's how much money you have to make in order to make ends meet. And it's like, is that really true?
Well, and even,
does my husband need to be doing this work?
Sure.
Do I need to be doing this work, etc.?
But even aside from jobs too, like, do your kids need to be involved in 5 different things each, right? Do 5 different extracurriculars. Yeah. That is such a time suck. Let me tell you. And that digs into family time. We have 5 kids, and my husband has said everyone gets one thing. I mean, some of them, because the little guys right now, like, don't really have much. Like, some of the older kids have 2, but it's like, that's it. Like, no one can go beyond 2 things at most, and ideally only 1, because you sacrifice time as a family when kids are getting involved in so many things. And society, I fall into this where it's like, oh my gosh, but are we giving them enough experiences? Are they well-rounded enough? Like, that's the lie that we're being sold. What they need is their family. They need time in their family. Yep. They don't need to learn an instrument and do art class and do a sport. No, they need time with their family above all. So don't forget that stuff.
Absolutely. I love this.
Thanks so much for listening. If you are not already following us on Instagram, be sure to check us out at Charting Toward Intimacy. And if you listen to podcasts on a platform that gives you the option to rate or review, we'd love for you to do that because it helps us spread the word about the podcast. If you ever have questions, comments, or episode topic ideas, please reach out to us. We love to hear from you. You can reach out on Instagram or send us an email. Our email is in the show notes. Until next time.